Thunder Grunt.
Hey guys,
Bob,
We're back.
we're back forever. Tell me who you are.
I am Jimmy George. I am a full-time script consultant and a screenwriter.
I am Jamie Nash, screenwriter and author of the 44 Rules of Amateur Sleuthing, now on Audible. Check it out.
And I'm Bob Rose, and I'm merely a reflection of myself.
Ah,
And I say that because today we're going to talk about a movie that I cannot believe is 20 years old.
20 years.
20 years! We're going to talk about The Matrix.
And I can't believe it was only 10 years after Bill and Ted. It feels
like Bill and Ted is so far away.
far away from The Matrix.
That is true. 89 to 99.
Yep. 10
Keanu
years
had
apart.
Keanu's had a great run, let's
Yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're going to talk about a movie that I think it's still revered, right? Like,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. I mean, it was revered back in his day because Jamie's going to tell us about the box office.
Now, no, I can tell you.
We have no clue what you're doing on that laptop ever.
Yeah.
We need a screen. a
He's
big
chatting about how much he hates what he's
Yeah,
doing.
I
right
got
now.
to tell these guys I'm
screen. I'm
done.
live tweeting the podcast. So it made The Matrix made in 1999. It made $463 million, which is less than I actually would've
Domestic?
guessed.
Domestic or
Worldwide.
Worldwide.
but with inflation,
Well, here's an interesting factoid. The Ghost, not the Ghost, Ghost made $500 million. Ghost made more money than The Matrix.
but Ghost
so
was in
interesting.
what year
Before
was Ghost?
it.
What year
So-
was Ghost?
To support that
Yes.
notion, I saw this on its opening night in a theater by myself.
Empty.
No one was there. I distinctly remember being shocked that I was watching this incredible movie
There
That's
was.
insane
with
to me.
no one there on
I-
opening Friday night.
I think that
What
might be
theater?
a little
it
telling.
was in Towson. It's closed now.
Oh, well, I saw it opening Friday night. If for all of our Baltimore area DMV listeners,
DMV.
I saw it at White Marsh, the Avenue at White Marsh, in the biggest theater they have. It was packed to the
Wow.
gills.
I s-
That's probably because it was a new theater 20 years ago,
Yes.
and that's where everybody was.
yeah, the new fancy
The
theater.
new fancy
at the time.
theater. Right.
I remember when it came out, it was a little iffy. You know, there was Johnny Mnemonic, and that didn't do so well with
Right.
Keanu.
Redux.
Very
People-
weird marketing campaign.
The marketing campaign was a little understated. I'm not sure that they knew what they had on their hands.
Yeah.
And I remember I wasn't 100% on board to go see it. I was going to kind of wait for the reviews and slow play it. I might have, for someone who always saw movies on opening night, I might have waited to the second week before I saw this movie.
But it just goes to show you. I mean, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I mean, the teaser trailer was genius.
Mhm.
It was just a phone swinging, remember? And it said, "What is the Matrix?"
Mhm.
And I remember the actual theatrical trailer being not too great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It kind of did look like Johnny Mnemonic.
Mhm.
I love Johnny Mnemonic,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, no, it
I
was
do.
playing off of
but
that.
it looked like that.
It was
kind-
like an answer
cheap,
to it.
a cheap, shitty kind
I
of
think
like
they
movie.
didn't know how to market it
Yeah.
for some reason, at the
Yeah.
time.
'Cause it was
Which is
kind-
odd because it's such a standard hero's journey tale that we're
Yeah.
so used
But
to
it is,
seeing.
but also visually, it's a movie that we've never seen before.
Right.
So that there's that too.
Right, anime come to life,
It
essentially.
finished
Yeah, pretty
it
much.
finished fifth domestically. Ahead of it were Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me,
Wow.
Toy Story 2,
Okay.
Wow.
The Sixth Sense, and Star Wars Episode 1,
Well,
The
that's
Phantom
not
Menace.
surprising. Yeah.
Still, I would have guessed it would be number 2 behind
Yeah.
Star Wars. But okay.
Right behind The Matrix was Tarzan by Disney and Big Daddy.
Big Daddy.
Man.
Wow, Adam Sandler was raking it.
Yeah, he was.
Holy shit.
Big Daddy made $8 million less than The Matrix. It was that close.
Wow.
Yes. And Big Daddy actually made more money than The
That's
Mummy.
shocking.
What a different world,
Yeah,
man.
that-
A different world now. It's such wow.
God, people would watch the newest Adam Sandler while like looking at their cell phone at home.
Well, now he's on
on
Netflix.
Netflix. That's what I'm
owns his
saying.
soul
Yeah.
now. So
Number 10 that year, The Blair Witch Project at $140 million.
Wow.
Only $30 million less than The Matrix, made for a few dollars less.
God, I really didn't think about that. Yeah,
Wow.
Blair Witch is also 20 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a connection to that guy
We do.
in Jamie Nash.
Talk about the no writing. The
Right.
Improvisational writing. Actually, it would be an interesting thing. But anyway, The Matrix.
The Matrix.
So who wrote
Who
it?
wrote it, Jamie?
The Matrix was written by the Wachowskis.
Right.
So the Wachowskis, before this movie, the Wachowskis they kind of burst onto the scene with a script for Assassins was their spec screenplay,
Okay.
which was massively rewritten to the point where they didn't want their names on it.
Yeah.
However, it kind of launched them in the industry. Their next they actually had The Matrix as part of like a deal they made or something like that.
In the
with studio.
IMDb trivia, I'm going by
Okay,
that. They showed Joel Silver The Matrix, and apparently he was like, "Look, this is great, but no one's going to give you the money for
Right.
this.
So
So
they
what you
did
got to
Bound.
do is you need to go and direct your own movie because Assassins they didn't direct, obviously. So they directed Bound.
Yeah, Bound.
They made
Love
Bound, and that gave them the clout to get
Okay.
the Matrix
And
greenlit.
Bound is an underseen movie.
Yeah.
A lot of people haven't seen it. I highly recommend it.
Very
It's-
good
it's-
movie.
Yeah,
It has a lot of visual flair, but it's also a very small story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good one. It's something they kind of need to go back to, I think.
Right.
At
Yeah,
this point.
it would be interesting to
Yeah.
see them take a
They're
step
just-
back.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
amazing
It's a good point.
filmmakers that need some kind of a restart.
Tether.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they,
Right. Yeah. Right. right.
before movies, they were writers of graphic novels. They had a lot of stuff they've written in
That
the graphic
totally
novel
makes
world.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can see that influence later on. And then when they had The Matrix, when they finally got it pitched, they had to do this infamous, I think, 600-page every shot as a graphic novel kind of pitch
In
document.
I read all the trivia last night.
Yeah, that's
So the
good.
trivia said that I found this to be fascinating. They apparently they wrote it, but they were intimidated on how to actually show this stuff on the screen.
Wow.
Like they themselves were like, we don't know
So they
exactly what they do. So they hired a storyboard
Okay,
artist to
okay.
make the comic book of this movie, pretty
Wow.
much.
Almost
And-
like an animated film process.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
and it also sounds a little bit like the prep work for Avengers that we've discussed.
I was going to
Yes.
say
Yeah,
a
yeah,
little
yeah.
bit like Mad Max Fury Road did the same thing.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
really?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if he did it for the same reasons, but he basically, there's a whole illustrated. You can find it. I think it's on the internet, but you can find the illustrated version of the screenplay
Oh,
out there
wow.
Mhm.
Before they shot anything.
before they shot anything. Apparently,
Yeah.
I just find it incredible that like two filmmakers who like you consider these like amazing visual artists were like intimidated by their own script.
They hadn't figured it out
Yeah,
yet.
like they're like, how does this look? What
Isn't
is
that
this?
inspiring?
Yeah, it is. At
Holy
least
shit.
you know that people aren't perfect.
Yeah.
Because to come out of the gate with something like The Matrix, you're like, like that's
Yeah,
a
I know,
visionary
I
thing.
know.
Yeah, right.
and it cost $63 million, which seems almost cheap for a movie like
Yeah.
this.
Because they shot in Australia.
Yeah, that's right.
If they shot it
in
here,
Australia.
it'd be 180 million.
Okay. Wow.
That
I'm
answers
Mr.
that.
Trivia. Sorry.
No, it's good. It's
Yeah,
relevant.
yeah,
It's all
right.
relevant.
I'm trying to think. Around the time of Lord of the Rings, I don't know if there's any, but Lord of the Rings was New Zealand, but still cheap down under. You
Yeah.
know,
Down under.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, but all those cityscapes.
Superman
yeah.
Returns was in Australia
I believe
as
so,
well.
yeah.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
think maybe the same cost savings going on there.
I wonder if there was something going on back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I just remembered like it said US would have been exactly 180 million or something. So
Well, that makes sense. Warner Brothers made this, so
Oh,
that
yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense. That
Maybe they
lines
had a
up.
deal
They
going.
just were making Warner Brothers properties, probably. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, I mean for such a huge script too.
It was the Crocodile Dundee scene.
Right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, how do you jump into that script from a budget perspective? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Let's talk about log lines for the Matrix.
I want to hear.
I want to hear Jamie.
Jamie's.
I'm so excited to hear Jamie's. Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't have one.
I have one.
No, so I didn't like I always do. I didn't plan a log line out, but I wanted to discuss it because I had trouble with the log line. That's why I wanted
Really?
to discuss it.
Okay.
In a weird sort of way, I had trouble with the log
Mhm.
line because my usual formula, and this might mix into some other things that we go to. So my usual formula for the log lines, if you listen to other episodes, I try to approach it from a hero with a goal. There's an obstacle on the way, and if they don't get it, something really bad happens.
Stakes.
So the problem with the movie like this is, what is Neo's goal?
Yeah.
And really what we're chasing is, what's Neo's goal in the second act?
Right.
Okay, because the first act is just find truth.
Find
okay.
truth.
That's it.
So
Right.
I had a hard time with this log line too. I came up with a log line that I'm very happy with, but it took me a long time to get there. Just
Okay.
looking at the movie and seeing what the visual evidence was of what he achieves, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think a different I'm going to tell you what I think a different log line would be talking about the goal of leading the resistance, like
Okay.
accepting his role as the leader and
Right.
that being the goal, but I don't think that's the goal. I think
Yeah.
that's the result of the goal.
That was
Kind of like Terminator.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
more what I came up with, was the one you said. It was, but that was my problem. So it was an internal goal.
Yeah.
And usually when I instruct this stuff, and we've talked about this before, I tell people to find a goal that could be photographed.
Right.
So like, slaying the dragon can be
Right.
photographed.
Photographed.
Winning the gold can be photographed. Blowing up the Death Star can be photographed. It doesn't mean all movies have that, but most of these archetypical commercial stories have that kind of goal.
Well-
This one felt to me more internal, like, am I the one?
Right.
Finding out who I'm going to be.
This is kind of a crazy thing to say. What I was gonna say is, you could also maybe write this log line from Morpheus' perspective.
Yeah, you could.
Do you know what I mean? Because he has the
He's
goal.
doing all the.
I feel like the end
He's
of this
got a
movie,
goal.
he reached, like, his goal
He
was
attained
reached.
his
Yeah,
goal.
Morpheus attains
He
his
woke
goal.
up. So
Yeah.
I came up with something, but like I said, this was a lot of work to kind of go back and forth because I was doing those things. I was
But-
writing the wrong.
Yeah,
When
and
I
but-
read it, I was like, this isn't right.
By the way, the key to that formula, and a lot of these formulas, and this is some of the problem with, the Save the Cats of the world and the Paradigms of the world, they're forward looking. They're to help you come up with your story, not to help you reverse engineer someone else's
Right.
story. So
Exactly.
that's why they sometimes
Doing it
fail.
after the fact isn't.
That's why they
perfect.
sometimes
Yeah.
fail. It's useful as an exercise for us, but
Yeah.
just because it doesn't work, it's not.
But the Matrix
It's not
works,
made
so it
to-
doesn't matter.
I
that it
also
doesn't
think the
matter.
reason
Yeah.
that this is so difficult speaks to how powerful they achieved the inner
Okay.
path of this story.
Okay.
Because we're so focused on the grander stuff in this,
Right.
it really makes you realize what a good job they did.
Okay. Take it away.
So-
Yeah,
Take it away.
say it.
I
say
said,
it,
when a
yeah.
hacker learns his reality is a virtual construct controlled by intelligent machines to enslave mankind, he must gain control of the program, because that's the goal he achieves in the end. That's how he wins.
Yeah.
He gains control of the program
That's good.
and lead humanity's fight for freedom in the real world, because
So-
that's what's at stake.
so-
Freedom, humanity's freedom.
Yeah.
So you did the thing that I try to instruct students to do, which is, let's say you have a goal like the one I said, like discover if you're the one, or get more confident in your abilities. You took that and said, well, what's a tangible goal that you'd have to do the internal goal to get to? So the internal goal becomes the journey to get the tangible
Yep.
goal. So I
Yeah.
like that. I
yeah.
like that.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But
So,
no,
I look at what they
Do you-
did
do you know what-
visually.
Mhm.
You know
Right.
what's funny too is, like, I think that's perfect, honestly, Jimmy. But you know what's great is, I never even think hacker when I think about this movie.
Yeah.
Like, it never registers. And
Yeah.
then, like, even watching it again, I was like, oh right, he was a hacker. Like, it doesn't even register.
Mhm.
You just think
No,
of him
you're
as kind
right.
of a white
you
guy
really
who's
think-
sad.
You really forget about who he was in the before
Totally.
world, because there's so much
A testament to the
world
movie.
building. Of
It
the-
doesn't spend a lot of time on
Yeah.
that. It's like probably one scene.
He likes
Yeah.
computers.
Yeah.
And he sells computer stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of good, really fast stuff that makes it clear that
Establishes and-
he's the guy to be the one.
Right.
But where all that came out of
Mm-hmm.
is really answering these questions that you guys posed.
Mhm.
And that made me realize, like, the whole movie's, and we'll talk about theme later, the whole movie's about control. And so that's essentially what he achieves, is control, like the thematic. But I was with you guys, like, it was really hard to kind of put your finger on what the goal was.
Right.
Which is a strange thing to think about, because it feels like such a easy movie to follow. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yeah. Because
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that said, it also was a movie. I think I said this to you, Jamie, when you got here. The studio did ask them to revise the script to have more expositive stuff about the Matrix
Oh,
itself,
wow.
because it was not easy to
So
understand.
the exposition is an answer to the studio notes.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what a
according
great
to
fucking
IMDb,
answer.
According to IMDb,
Wow.
because it's a hard movie to understand if you take out Morpheus explaining.
No,
stuff.
I know it is.
Yeah,
Jamie, I wanted
right.
to ask you, though, before we move on to the exposition stuff,
Right.
if you'd be willing to talk about the exercise that
Yeah,
you did
yeah,
in
well,
class.
Please.
Well,
yes.
So, one of the more difficult things about log lines, and again, this is before you write your script. So the main thing I like to teach students is come up with a really good, rock solid log line before you hit the next step. So do that first. And I go through a whole assignment with this hero goal, obstacle, and stakes, try to get them to nail that down. And again, we're looking for a photographable
Right.
goal. Slay the dragon, get the money, win the girl, whatever it is. Something you can photograph. It's not like gain more confidence or like a character arc.
Become happy.
Yeah.
Right.
So what, but that's exactly what happens. So I give them an assignment to show a picture of what happens with the log line at the goal, thinking that that will make it one of these tangible things. But unfortunately, then I get people that do write goals like be happy and confident, and they just show a picture of somebody smiling.
Like, that's the filmable end.
Like that's
Like
the filmable
you could
end.
do that if you were in a sci-fi movie and you had something on your chest that like glows red when you're happy.
Right.
Right.
Like you have to do it in a weird way, but you could do it. It's-
Yeah.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But I think that's
It
when you realize that, okay, that's, you got to kind of tweak that exercise. It's more, what does the achievement of that goal look like, right?
Yeah.
The
I'm
action
not wording
they
it
take.
well enough.
No,
or
but
something.
No,
I
it's-
would
I
have
understand what you
I
mean,
would have
yeah.
done the same thing. I would
Yeah.
have posed the same question and got the same results. A picture of smiling.
So the picture is a new thing I added to the
love
exercise to
it.
try to get them to that point. But it's almost like even sometimes when they had the goal right, like let's say we were doing Raiders of the Lost Ark and getting the Lost Ark was the goal. Maybe they'd have a picture of a guy high-fiving somebody, So
The reward.
Right, yeah,
It was. It just kind of shows you.
so interesting.
Yeah, everybody build
Yeah.
a better mousetrap, build a better mouse, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
It's a great exercise, Jamie.
I think it can be a useful goal for people listening if you're at that stage where you're coming up with a story. Try to find a picture of what it would look, or draw a picture.
Draw
is
it.
what I say.
Yeah.
It's
Would-
perfectly fine.
If you were reading this script and somebody like the perfect picture for them to put up would probably be what, like Neo stopping the bullets in midair.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah,
think
and
that
I
would
would
be
say,
perfect.
well, he absorbs. I wrote like, what does gaining control of the Matrix look like?
flying.
Okay, so it's fighting and defeating the agents in a way that no other resistance fighter who we've seen has superhuman powers in the Matrix
Right.
has been able to do before, including and specifically Morpheus. Morpheus is unable to control the Matrix, right? And we have seen him lose.
He can
because-
manipulate,
but he's not
yeah.
able to gain control over it. And so what Neo does is not just stop the bullets, but he like takes
he
the
rewrites,
code,
yeah.
rewrites it, and he absorbs the agents themselves,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was
Just
that-
Smith.
Yeah, Smith.
Just
Yeah,
Smith.
but it's just a
And,
phrase.
and conversely, if let's say it was just get more confident or become the one or something like that, or feel like you're the one or have
Right.
belief, you could show him like smiling or being confident or something, but it doesn't mean in the next scene he wouldn't be unconfident. That's the hard part about
that
it.
is.
And that's usually what the problem with those kind of stakes are. And there are movies that have those kind of
Which
stakes.
this
They're more
movie
mini
does
plots.
excel at, because the next scene is him literally putting on sunglasses and flying
Flying.
away.
Right.
Right.
So that's
right.
total confidence.
Yeah.
He is the one, and he knows it. And has and the whole movie is about him accepting it. Right? Yeah. So,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
along
filmed goals. Right.
Filmed.
Very filmed.
That's very visual.
those, along those lines, and I'm just going to skip. One
That's
down,
okay.
Yeah.
is,
Sure.
is kind of that to me, and this goes hand in hand with it. There's a whole thing in Act 2. So, assuming that the Act 2 is when he takes the pill and he ends up in the other world. A lot of times you get world changes in Act 2. I usually also call that break into, and it's not just, this isn't my term, kind of the lock in. It's the character locked in to the conflict.
I like that.
That's the
Yeah,
lock
that's
in.
good.
Never heard that.
Point of no return.
The point of no
Yeah.
return.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Good
when
call.
you
Yeah.
lock your character into that log line, so to speak, the goal, obstacle, and stakes, that's to me when you go to Act 2. However, in some of these movies, this one included, there's this other section that once they get to that new world, you have to describe a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of exposition. So instead of like being locked into a conflict, like I need to gain control of the Matrix, it's a whole section of what is the Matrix.
I have to understand.
We have to understand the Matrix. Here's the new world. Let's enjoy it.
That would be the fun and games of this movie if it had one, right? I think so.
You said the exposition, because I want to talk about exposition.
So yeah, it was very unspecific.
An answer to notes. I love that.
Well, no, it was just an IMDb trivia blurb.
Okay.
So don't think I know everything. Okay. But like
most notes are about exposition in my experience.
I would, if I had to take a big broad swing, I'd say it was the what is it? The Desert of the Real scene might have been beefed up, because that is literally Morpheus explaining to the audience what is going on.
Yeah.
Here's the real world.
Right.
Here's the fake world.
Right.
You can choose. There, that's. I'm assuming that was either added in or beefed up.
Okay.
But I'm only working from IMDb
That's
trivia,
incredible.
so I'm not speaking.
Because to me, it feels like that was the beginning of it.
But it feels perfect.
Yeah, I know
the way it's presented.
Yeah.
So it's amazing that was a fix.
So I wanted to bring that in because I see a lot of bad versions of this. It is very difficult thing to do what they achieved, which is they made it all extremely entertaining, right? And it's but it's just two people talking. Essentially, when you break it down, it's two people talking.
Yeah, but every 5 seconds, like they're in a white room, they're in the
right. So I wanted to talk about
abyss,
the techniques. So,
Yeah.
do you know who Scott Myers is, Jamie?
Yes, go into the story.
Yeah, go into the story.
Okay.
Scott Myers
Is that a
for
book,
the
guys?
Blacklist.
It's a website.
It's a website.
Yeah,
Okay.
and he works for the Blacklist, or maybe he runs the Blacklist. He's
Not
affiliated with the Blacklist. Go into the story.
Not the TV show, the website.
Yeah.
Right.
Go into the story is a Blacklist website.
Oh, I didn't know that, but that's cool.
So he has an exposition. He has a list of exposition techniques, and I wanted to show how each of these movies. He didn't break the Matrix down, but he's got these techniques, and I think they're really helpful, and I've told clients about them before. And he says in order to make exposition like gripping and entertaining and easily digestible, you use fascination, mystery, revelation, conflict, action, and humor, right? So I wanted to show how all of those are why this exposition is awesome. And so the first one, Neo takes the pill, right? So he's in conflict immediately, because as soon as he gets in there, we know he just made this huge choice, right? But
and talk about being concise in
holy
a script.
shit,
yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to choose.
You have
right
to choose,
now.
right? And there's a whole thing,
a visual goal to choose.
Visual goal, right?
Yeah.
So he takes this red pill, and we as an audience are like hanging on Morpheus's every word to know what are the consequences for doing so, right? And so as soon as Neo learns, immediately he's like, "Let me out." So for the rest of the exposition, which is a series of couple scenes, Neo is, if you watch it, he's trying to get out. Like, he's like looking for an escape. So there's conflict immediately for the whole thing. So then there's mystery, which we talked about, the campaign, right? The ad campaign itself is part of the premise. What is the Matrix? We've all been coming here to find out what the Matrix is. And so there's mystery there. And the first line to Neo in the script is, "Do you want to know what the Matrix is, Neo?" So we've been waiting to answer this question.
It's like a fourth wall break that isn't one. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's perfect.
It's
so that's why we're like ready, and we
By the
want to
way,
know, man. Tell me.
Just so you guys know, too, a great piece of trivia was the Wachowski said if presented with that choice, they would have taken the blue pill. They literally said that.
That's awesome. I think
that's
I'd
hilarious. Yeah.
And I said, like, notice in the log line how answering what is the Matrix is a huge part of the story itself, right?
Yeah.
Understanding that. So then there's fascination. That's one of his other tools. Is the exposition provides us with like a fascinating reveal about our reality,
right?
That we at home go like, holy shit, what if we're not real? Like, what if this is not the real world? So we're fascinated by the exposition that's being told to us. And then action. Morpheus is just talking to him, but like they're walking down the road. There's like 100 people bumping into him. There's thumping techno playing, so it's like very exciting. And
that scene is filled with twins, by the way.
I never noticed
because it's supposed to be a computer program repeating. So they
That's
hired a bunch of
awesome.
twins.
All the
I
times
thought-
I've seen it, I've never noticed.
yeah, I
that.
thought that was awesome too. I read
Jesus.
that last night. I was like, oh my god,
That's
really?
so awesome. And then a duality.
But yeah.
But so in those 2 minutes, just those 2 minutes, Morpheus tells him all the rules of the Matrix, the goal of the Resistance, the obstacles they face, the threats, the reward they seek, which is the freedom of humanity, and the stakes for failure.
Mhm.
We learn all of that in that 2 minutes walking down the road, but it doesn't feel like we're being thrown all this stuff because of the action. And then lastly, they use humor at the end, which he says, "Were you listening to me, Neo, or were you looking at the woman in the red dress?" So we all laugh, right? So
yeah.
it uses every single one of those Scott Myers exposition techniques. It's like perfect. I fucking love it. I think I read scripts that are trying to introduce us to a Matrix-like world,
Mhm.
and they're missing this. They are showing us this new world that we've never seen that has all this craziness, and they're missing the Matrix exposition that lets us understand the world. I see it all the time. Do you
without
see that,
that-
Jamie?
Not, I don't know. I don't know that I do. I don't see a lot of long form stuff, in that time. So
Okay. So there's no time for you to get there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I'm not like.
I mean, if you just take that out, it's like an avant-garde weird indie movie.
Dude, you'd never know what the fuck was happening.
But I've seen movies like that I
So
don't
have I.
completely hate. But
That's true.
you know what I mean? Like, it's up to you. There's no Morpheus. You just gotta figure it
Yeah.
out.
Here's the weird
Yeah.
thing though about the structure. The second half, the second act doesn't have a ton of urgency. Like there's no,
It's true.
we have to get on with it and do something now. Instead, you almost get the sense they could just fly around and take their time with it and do some
Right.
training, right? Let's go visit the Oracle. Let's go on a little vacation.
You're right.
That said, it works perfectly fine. It's a fun movie to watch. And I've noticed that there really isn't that lock into conflict until after the exposition, because that's when it explains, like, if we go with your log line and say to control the Matrix, well, he doesn't know that's why he's there until after,
for a long time.
for a little while.
Like 40 minutes.
Yeah, so it's almost like this second beat in Act 2. And I noticed, I was watching Jurassic Park a couple days ago, and I kind of felt the same thing with that movie, is that you need a whole section where they get to enjoy the Disney World approach to that before monsters break out and they're on the loose.
Sure.
And that's when the lock-in happens.
Like a second, like you said, a second setup.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's kind of in these world-building kind of movies that need exposition and things like that have that. But another type of movie that has that to me, and I think this movie fits in with it, are superhero origin stories. So superhero origin stories, you need a montage or 50 minutes of fun and games and doing stuff and things like that. Even Ghostbusters, to an extent, superhero origin story. In my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
This is kind of like that too. So he has to start testing things.
Yeah.
And then he actually can go on the mission after the middle of the movie.
Right. Now that I'm starting to believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need that time when where he and the audience, as he's the surrogate for us, can kind of absorb that, so that the next part is a superhero story.
Yeah.
And don't
Not
what you're
Jurassic
saying-
Park so much. But
the thing that I find interesting about what you're saying, Jamie, right now about this is the Oracle scene. Because you know what I mean? Like, while there is we're up till that point, we're in kind of a fun and games. He's exploring this universe thing, but then we literally have something telling the audience and him that he is not the one. Which
the challenge.
Right. Is that what that would be called?
Challenging the faith.
Challenging the
I
faith?
mean, it's.
I thought
I'm
that was like a
saying
term.
he's,
Okay.
it's not a. I have no term for this. It's
Oh,
just
okay.
Like she's there to challenge.
Which I'm saying I feel like that makes this movie a little unique, because that doesn't.
in some ways,
Right.
It takes away the
You're
faith.
not Spider-Man.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. That doesn't happen.
Yeah,
no one says you're not Spider-Man.
in a
Yeah.
weird sort of way though.
Yeah.
I know, like, the Blake Snyder in his second book actually broke down the Matrix. I didn't read it before.
I didn't either. I should have read it. Neither of us.
I've read it a long time ago.
Me too.
But I almost see the Oracle scene. He says there's always false victories and false defeats at the midpoint that spin the story in another
You see
direction.
that as a victory for him?
It seems almost like a false defeat.
It's usually the midpoint will be the opposite of the end.
Yeah.
So-
it seems like he was told he wasn't the one,
Right.
but then he'll become the one through
Yeah.
it. Also, and this happens in superhero movies all the time, oftentimes that midpoint thing, whatever happens at the midpoint that they go to, is also sort of a way that they, what's the word? They signal the bad guys, like we're here,
we're here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they get caught.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
like, if you look at Spider-Man, like that's when the Green Goblin kind of like
Right.
Yeah.
push you against
Right,
the
right,
wall.
right.
Or Superman, it was Lex Luthor's like the Superman guy needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
And it's usually the midpoint. Matrix kind of does that in another way. They kind of are outed when they're with the Oracle and stuff like that.
Well, that trip is what kind of
trip.
the
The
trip
trip
to
he's
the
a-
Oracle.
He's a threat worth taking seriously.
Yeah, they're not in
Yeah.
hiding anymore.
Yeah.
They're kind of like publicly unmasked.
We got
Also-
somebody new who's gonna
Also,
kick your ass.
I think an amazing Easter egg in that scene, and that's what makes the script great, is the little stuff. Is that she's a computer program and she gives Neo a cookie,
Right.
which
Yeah,
is pretty great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, in case anyone didn't realize that, I think that's pretty great.
It is great.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk a little bit about, you kind of glossed over a little bit,
Mhm,
the why now
yeah.
of the beginning, because
Yeah.
I didn't
good
think about that
call.
till you said it, Jamie, and I'm sitting here trying to chew it up in my mind, because the question is, why did Morpheus and the Nebuchadnezzar crew, or humanity, well, I guess just Morpheus, why did they wait until he was like in his 30s to wake him
Right.
up?
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, did they give a reason why it's happening now? Why does Morpheus get woken? Why does Neo get woken up now in his
My
life?
take was maybe I'm wrong about this or misremembering it from watching it the other day. They just found him. And
They were looking and
they
they
were
finally
looking and they
found
just
him.
found
Is
him.
that it?
and somehow
Based on
they're-
his activity in the real, in
Some-
the
yeah.
in the
It's not.
construct.
It's
It
kinda
doesn't
in the
do any
backstory.
detriment to the movie.
No,
it's
not
just
at all.
an interesting question.
'Cause what is her and I'm sorry, what was her first mission like when in that teaser? What's she doing?
Jesus.
I just watched it last night. I don't know
God,
if
I just did too.
She's running from agents.
But
There's
I'm not
For
sure
some
that we
reason-
know the mission.
For some reason, I thought this is maybe my mind.
no. She's just
retroactively.
running back home, basically.
I thought she was trying to put something together, like finding him.
Finding Neo.
And they just found him, and somehow that tips the agents off to him. So then they end up there too.
How is it that all three of us can't put our finger on that?
I've seen this movie like 100
Me
times
too.
too. I always just assumed it was kind of
It works without understanding that.
Actually, I don't know if I agree or think that's right, because I think that
I'm kind of riffing. So
Oh, okay. No, I think that the opening scene is just world building, and it starts questions that are not answered.
Yeah.
Like, how can she do these things?
Right.
What is happening?
Yeah.
Did she just die?
Yeah.
Who is this?
Yeah. No, it's
You know what I
great.
mean? It's just establishing. It's the expositive physics of the movie,
Yeah.
and then once we get told by
Yeah.
Morpheus
we
what's
get
happening.
clarity about those powers.
Oh, that's what was
how
happening.
that is possible.
But I don't remember it being a specific mission. She's just trying to get to a phone to
Gotcha.
go back.
So I don't know
Yeah.
that they maybe, but I think that you're saying like based on his activity, they were able to find him. It's
First,
kind of
the-
there's
the-
evidence
The
there.
part I'm vaguely remembering is
Mhm.
like something about the agents saying they were after the agents having some communication about Neo in that scene or immediately after it. But I'm vaguely, my memory's a little fuzzy. on
Well, I guess you could sort of also say, like, Morpheus does say there was a man who once could control the Matrix, and then
Mhm.
after he died, the Oracle said that another would come
There'd be
again.
another.
Maybe she gave him a time
Yeah,
frame
but that's
on
not
that.
on the
It's not on the
screen,
page.
so it doesn't count.
And we're not, and just so we're clear to anyone listening, we're not talking about the sequels, because the sequels,
Yeah, we got to take this for its
we're
own
taking
thing.
this for its own thing. I know that there are answers. to
Yeah,
this
there's
stuff,
answers,
but we're just talking about this movie.
and
so.
it's interesting because I agree with you. Like there are like ticking clock mechanisms later, like with the Sentinels like closing in and all these various things that are going on in the action. But the overall, there really isn't like an urgency of like the why now.
The ship just
Yeah.
has to naturally just not get caught like
Yeah,
it
yeah.
always
Yeah.
has been not
Yeah,
getting caught.
It's
not,
like they could. I wonder if that's because of the inevitability of the fact that like all humanity is enslaved, and it's such a huge Herculean task a goal to achieve to try to expect that they could do it in a quick amount of time. You know, I
Mhm,
mean,
mhm.
did they even do it by the end of the third movie? I don't even
what do what?
free all humanity. No, they fail. Like
That's a whole different
That's a whole
podcast.
different thing, but what
I
I'm
could
saying
answer that.
is-
It's just a whole different podcast.
yeah, but what I'm saying is like there really isn't urgency. Like it could have happened a year
The-
from now.
Mhm.
The only
Kinda-
urgency. Well, hold on. The only urgency is that the machines do not know where Zion is, and they are eternally looking for it.
Looking for it.
And that our heroes are in a ship that is in a world where they are being
We're talking about the overall story,
Right.
not the individual
I'm
conflicts
just saying,
that happen later.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, it's not a ticking clock, but there is a pressure.
Okay.
They can't be free to walk around in their world.
Okay. So there is a pressure.
There's that pressure.
It's only a matter of time before this resistance
Yes.
is getting caught.
It's a matter of time before
Humanity's on its last leg.
Okay.
No,
and
They
the
don't
machines
really spend a lot of effort though on that.
it's pretty. It's relatively.
It's in a
quick.
few
But
lines
when
of dialogue.
I'm saying that because
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
And they wanted to
Just-
save money. Showing
Yeah.
Zion is
Yeah.
expensive.
I think.
Right.
I think they also bring in sort of heavy-handed. What Cypher is that the guy's name?
Cypher, yeah.
I think they-
Joey Pants.
Yeah, I think they try to make us realize that he's a problem that they're going to have to deal with very soon.
Yeah.
While we're
That's true.
Yeah.
He's his own. He's a ticking time bomb
it's
himself.
kind of like
Well,
that Sid Field pinch point thing
so-
that usually happens.
Oh,
I
that's
wrote
funny.
this down. I don't know if you like it very much, but it was about how we kind of talked about it. How like we're kind of with Neo the whole time, and the only time the story leaves us
Mm-hmm.
from Neo's story is actually Cypher's deceit,
right.
which I thought was interesting. I didn't.
Did you read the trivia about? Did you learn about that?
No.
So that was not in the script.
Is Cypher doing that?
They added that while they were shooting. They wrote that because they realized that it would make it a better movie. The reason the perspective shift is such a little off kilter is because it wasn't planned, and they decided we need to add a scene with Cypher, just Cypher. So that was that was like the last
also-
addition.
But how?
the
I wonder how the
story.
other crew members died then.
No, I'm talking about the restaurant scene.
Oh,
Just
they
the
add. Oh,
restaurant
it was
scene.
his deceit was
Where
already planned. Okay.
Where you hear all of his riffing on why he's doing this and how excited, and you
Such
just
a good
see
scene,
it's
too.
Dude, it's one of my favorite scenes in the
It's
movie.
so good.
That was not in the original script when they were going to shoot, and it was something that they added last minute. It was like the last addition to the story. And imagine
about
the movie
writing-
without it.
Talk about writing a relatable antagonist in
Mhm.
that scene.
Yeah, it's
'Cause that-
perfect.
More so than even the blue pill scene, that's the scene where you go, would I actually take the blue pill?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the best.
It's
Yeah.
the philosophical underpinnings, really.
Which one of you asked about? I mean, we skipped over themes, but it depends on which one. We're talking about antagonists right now. So, which one of you asked about the juggling antagonist? Was it Bob?
That was
or
me.
Jamie.
I was like, because Cypher, the villain's obviously Agent Smith.
Well, when you said that, I had, obviously Cypher is an antagonist, but I had never really
Yeah.
thought about it. I think it's an awesome point that maybe Cypher is just as strong of a villain as Agent Smith. And the reason I say that
Because
is
his argument is so good.
Well, yeah.
yeah, it's a really good.
So it's
Yeah.
relatable,
Yeah.
but also he is more of your prototypical, well-constructed villain than Agent Smith. And by that I mean he is a circus mirror version of Neo. He took the red pill and he bought into the mission, he joined the resistance, and then now he is essentially the worst case scenario for what could happen to Neo. And usually
Right.
that's a great I think it's a great lesson for writing like Vader is the worst case scenario of what could happen to Luke. And that's why he's such a great villain because they're so similar.
Right. Yeah.
I thought about doing it, but something we've talked about on the podcast before was my story can beat up your story, the roles. And the Darth Vader role, and I thought this when I was watching, this character is almost like the deflector role, where they put Grand Moff Tarkin as the antagonist or the villain.
Gotcha.
And then the deflect, but I mean, it's all semantics.
Yeah.
But his character kind of represents that. He's like the philosophical argument for the other way.
Yeah.
The other direction philosophically.
Yeah.
Is
And he's also with the protagonists. Whereas Agent Smith is, we know, the audience is told from the moment on, Agent Smith is 100% machine program.
Yeah.
He's from the other side.
He's such an
Yeah.
awesome because you made that point when I was watching the movie, rewatching it made me really pay attention to Cypher in a way that I hadn't before.
Mhm.
And it made me appreciate him and what they did.
He makes the movie so much richer.
Dude,
It's
yeah.
kind of crazy.
He-
You could probably get rid of his portrayal
Mhm.
and the movie would still work.
It just wouldn't be as
It wouldn't
good.
be as nearly as meaty.
Yeah.
And I say that as a fun, but
No, but he's a fascinating. So it's all about control, right? So he doesn't want to be controlled by Morpheus and the Resistance in the real world, but he craves, and his goal is to be plugged back into the Matrix and give up all control.
I think it's as simple as the whole it's better to, rule in hell than that whole thing. Like, he just knows that he could be a big shot and live the lap of luxury.
That's a good call. Yeah.
And he's like, I don't want to eat snot in a shitty spaceship. It's like, sucks. Yeah.
And you can relate to that. You go like, this guy, I might be on board.
There's also a little bit to, is it better not to know? Is it, you know what I mean?
Ignorance is bliss. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Which is kind of themed too.
Yeah, there's an element of that. Yeah.
It's like a different movie that we didn't see.
Yeah.
Well, that's the central question to Neo. Which pill do you want to take?
Yeah.
Do you want to know or don't you want to know?
Right.
Are you?
And Cypher's the one telling us you should have taken the blue pill.
Taken the blue pill, dude.
Sucks.
I think that's why he is so important and such an important character. Without him, the movie wouldn't be anywhere near as philosophically interesting or whatever you want to say, because the opposite side wouldn't be presented that much.
It also gives him the moment, which I feel like they give him the moment that is extremely validating to Neo's story, which is his line, just, how can he be the one if he's dead? That, you know what I mean? I don't know. That line always rung out to me, like, and then instantly he gets shot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it validates us. Okay, we know what's going to happen.
Right.
Now, sort
That's
of.
a good call.
Yeah.
I never really thought about that.
Cypher's a lot more important to this movie than I think anyone ever gave him credit for.
When you put that point up, I was like, man, you're right.
Yeah.
So agreed, Bob.
Oh, thanks.
Well,
I made my good point for the day. So there you go. So what we got? Writing sci-fi solutions to universal truths. This was a weird thing I wrote because, like, the deja vu and the why, everything tastes like chicken. We in past episodes we talked about writing like iconic lines. I kind of like these lines. The thing about how the cat glitch is like a deja vu. It's so good. Like, I remember being in the theater and people actually like gasping at that, because not is that funny, it's just like, oh man, that's so good. Like, it's just such a good line, and the chicken thing is hilarious.
It could only and my response to that question you posed is, that's premise delivery. That is 100%. They asked
that's
the question. That's the whiteboard.
I was gonna say it's the whiteboard. They literally said what in life can be explained by the Matrix.
Yep. And how many different ordinary things can we make extraordinary? And they did, dude. I mean, this movie, the next movie. I mean, and this is another one of those cases where a bunch of the shit that went up on that whiteboard ended up in the second and the
For
third.
anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about,
okay,
when you have the premise,
right?
You get your whiteboard, your piece of paper, your document,
whatever.
You think of the premise, and then you think of every little bit of everything that you can do to play with that.
Yeah.
Every idea, right, Jamie? I mean, I think you're the one that explained it.
Yeah, no, I mean that's basically it. I would say you're trying to squeeze all the
juice.
So you gotta come up with it. And this is something we can all relate to. Like you said, it's the type of thing where you get the deja vu. Something seems a little off.
It's a glitch in the Matrix. It's so good. It just works so well.
I think this put that term into the vernacular. I mean, a glitch in the Matrix became something.
I mean, blue pill, red pill is
people talk about. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we could do a separate podcast on the cultural significance of this movie.
Yeah, and how it impacted the way movies are made.
Not to mention every movie for the next 10 years looked like
That's
it.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other thing.
But yeah, I just wanted to bring up the whiteboard thing. This movie kind of ticks all those boxes. It's really good at like just playing with explaining everyday things that are universal truths to people all over the world.
Yeah.
It's because we're in a computer.
Right.
So good. Like, so good. Yeah. Like to answer those questions.
And could only appear in this movie with this specific premise.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You cannot answer those questions.
That's why it just lands.
Right.
Yeah.
What else do we got?
So I skipped over one thing I wanted to talk about with the villains, with Agent Smith.
Please do.
So with Agent Smith, like my favorite, so Agent Smith is a great example of putting a face on the huge corporate evil entity. So I read a lot of scripts where there actually isn't an Agent Smith. There is just the machines.
Okay.
And so you have these one scene after another, and all the conflict is created by the machines.
Yeah, it's something I talk about a lot. Is there's 5 or so types of conflicts, right? There's man versus nature, and man versus man, and man versus self. But once you get to man versus society,
there it is.
that's the one you have to try to personify.
Yep.
So even something like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
You put Nurse Ratched out there
Yep.
to be the man.
That's a
kind of thing.
fantastic example.
She's like the healthcare system.
And so
She's the healthcare system.
yes,
Yeah,
and
right,
so I
yeah.
will read scripts a lot. This is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Where there is no Nurse Ratched, right?
Mhm.
The characters are stuck in their situation, and there's a bunch of nurses,
Mhm.
but none of them are given like a character, and a specific returning presence that causes obstacles to our characters. So it's just this is a great example. The lesser version of this would just have a bunch of agents and not an Agent
And
Smith.
To make this one of the reasons this movie's great is that Agent Smith isn't just written as the face of the entity, because he also has his side arc, which, to be fair, is not completed until the sequels.
Right.
That's when it actually goes, but there's that moment when he's like hacking Morpheus and he takes off his glasses and his earpiece.
Yeah.
And the other agents say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And that's the moment where I feel like that he is fleshed out completely. Yeah.
It's
Not to make a pun, but
but
you're right. Well, they didn't have to do that.
No.
I think that Agent Smith just being a blind agent who he's kind of the main guy that fights everybody and he just hates humans would be enough.
Yeah.
Giving him that thing where he's like, no, I don't even want to just kill all the humans. I want to get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't like being a program. I don't know. It makes him richer.
He's sentient. Yeah.
He's a sentient program,
Yeah, he's a
right?
sentient
They didn't
program.
have
Yeah.
to even do
Yeah.
that.
No.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's its own
Side thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But I I thought it was worth mentioning because I see a lot of man versus society, woman versus society, and then society is never given a face.
Yeah.
Nurse Ratched is a great example.
I-
I'm going to use that.
It really
For
is.
whatever reason, when you do personify those, some of those are the spicier villain characters.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but something about giving that character to
Because what they
society.
represent is usually really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's-
yeah.
And the villain construction, I think, almost becomes easier because you have that whole institution to kind of personify.
Right. Make
know?
them everything about that
Right.
that institution that
So
you don't like.
You have a head start.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's great.
Agent Smith as
Yeah.
corporate America. Make America Agent
Control.
Smith again.
Exactly.
Control.
The one thing I did also want to bring up, I feel like if you guys remember our Mission Impossible Fallout episode,
Mhm.
I remember I was reluctant to bring up the stunts, but you guys were like, we need to talk about the stunts
Yeah.
as far as the writing's concerned,
yeah.
because it's like integral. I mean, with this movie, I would say is one of the most popular out of pop culture, maybe one of the most stylistic movies ever made. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
how does that? I don't know. How do you like? We said the thing about the
So have you seen the
Animanic.
script?
huh?
Have you seen?
I've
the
never read.
script?
No,
Have you
I've
seen
never
it?
read. The script.
I've read it, but it's
Is
been
it-
some
is
So
it-
I
time.
revisited
I'm asking, is it
for this
represented
question.
in there?
So it's
Okay.
interesting. So it does. It really doesn't go crazy. And
Really?
what I mean by
Okay.
that, it's very. It looks very normal.
And they're actually quite good writers.
Yeah, it's a
the
fantastic.
style of the screenplay, just the mechanics of it, are actually very worthy of
Fun.
ripping off or learning from.
It's fun. It's very.
So
camera,
it's a good script to read.
Oh, it's a
and
great
learn.
script
Yeah.
to
Okay.
read. It was
Okay.
one of the first
Ba-
scripts I
Bound
read
as well.
because the year 1999 was when I started.
By the way, there's a
Um,
YouTube script to screen. You know, they make those script to screens where
Yeah.
they show it. There is a YouTube of The Matrix. I show it to my class. Yeah, it's good
Ah,
action teaching
that's
kind
awesome.
of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very.
So
there's
it's not explicitly explained in the script. All the
no,
visuals
it is,
and stuff,
but it's presented in a way like there's not right or wrong with format, but you could imagine a version like I'll use myself for example. So I used to write. I got this note from Jack Epps Jr. I used to be a consultant for me. He wrote Dick Tracy. He wrote Top Gun. He wrote Legal Eagles. He wrote The Secret to My Success. He's awesome. And at the
Mhm.
time, he was the head of the screenwriting program at USC. So I thought, who better to get
Right,
notes
right,
on my
right.
script from than this guy? And I went fucking crazy with the format and the whizzes and the bangs. It was very comic book style, but like to an extreme.
Right.
And he called it steroids. And he said, this is very entertaining and well written, but it's too much, right? It's steroids, and you want to avoid steroids as much as possible, right? And I've always remembered that, right? It's too much. And if you read this script, there isn't, they do capitalize sounds, and they do kind of accentuate big moments in the text itself,
Mhm.
but it reads very normal is what I'm saying. It reads like a very normally formatted screenplay. They don't do anything crazy, because I think you would assume that it's all whacked out and weird looking, but it looks like your very traditional screenplay is what
Well, I didn't assume it was visually different. I was just saying.
I would assume.
I didn't know
when
if
I
the
went
writing,
back to it, I
like,
revisited it
tagged
because
in visuals. That's what I was asking.
I
pretty much,
thought
yeah.
when I went back to it, it was going to look like a shot list, but it didn't.
Let's see, how do I word this? There was a spec script written maybe in the last, we'll just say the last 15 years, that I had access to from a writer that was a big sale, and it was going to be this multi-million, $100 million movie. And I remember when this writer gave it to me, they said, never write a script. I know you're interested in reading this, but never write a screenplay like this. And they basically, it was a big world building sci-fi kind of thing, and they spelled out everything in detail to the point where it was really boring to read. Like they totally directed on the page,
over directed.
They were trying to do it that way just to have some control over the next phase of the process, and it was I'm not sure that they said this, but they basically said, I think they said it contributed to why maybe the movie didn't move forward.
Gotcha.
Was because they basically turned their idea into like kind of a slow moving, prodding screenplay that had too much detail.
Like they were going into the nitty gritty details of the blocking, like very specific.
And more of the world building, like maybe the specific stuff about how the Matrix worked and things like that, is
described in the text.
Yeah, the stuff that looks much better if you do a storyboard, they were trying to put that into the text, like how things looked and how they were designed and things like that.
Who told you not to ever write a script like that?
This writer who wrote this script told me never to write it.
He learned his lesson.
Yeah, they're like,
okay.
Here, you can read this, but just know that this isn't how you ever want to write a screenplay.
Interesting.
Wow.
Well, I was, because you're talking about writer filmmakers, right? That's like your question was based around the fact that they knew they were going to shoot.
I was trying to bring it up so we could pull tools and tips out of it.
Yeah,
because they're visionary filmmakers. So
I mean, I think
surprisingly though, it's written like they're not.
They left it off the page because they knew
left
what they
it
were
for
gonna
later.
do.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And most people don't do that.
No, I think that's a good thing to ask. I mean, like a movie this stylistic, yes.
It is a good thing to ask,
strangely, then the other one that I'm talking about weren't writer directors, and they overdid it, and that was
it scared away the potential investment.
Yeah,
and that's probably a way to try to exert your control where you have none.
I think so.
Yeah.
I've certainly done it. I've tried.
Yeah, there's a line. There's a line.
Yeah.
And there's a skilled way to direct the camera in the format. This is a whole other discussion.
What we're saying here is they didn't need to because they were
didn't
making
do
the
it.
movie. So
yeah, it's not on the page that way.
It's actually very readable, but it's hard to know what it would read like if you hadn't seen the movie.
Right.
It's hard.
That's
to
true.
say.
We can't remove ourselves from the visuals.
Right. But it is worth mentioning that they did not make it look like a shot list on the page.
That's
what I'm saying.
That's the question I was asking.
It is not
pretty much.
a shot list with some dialogue. Not at all.
And the Wachowskis I look at as kind of like how Jim Cameron was. They're kind of people that came from writing first. So they probably knew all the ins and outs of writing, selling a spec screenplay, and they wrote it like that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's very tangible, easy to read.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly
No, it's a fantastic question.
I figured that if you would have and I know both of you agree, like the next 10 years after this movie came out, you had people describing bullet time and shit in their own movie.
In the scripts.
You know what I mean? Like they're like because they're like style
360. The camera moves 360 degrees around the character and blah 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 blah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
I just read a script. I mean, this is a touchy subject because you get a lot of writers who get really upset when you try to say don't do that. And I don't think that there's necessarily rules. It's just what's necessary and unnecessary to tell the story.
Tools, not rules.
Tools, not rules. So I just read a script that basically it was like 8 pages. It took like 8 pages, and every single written block of action was a shot. And it was actually just a scene that should have taken like 2 pages, and it took 8 pages to describe because it was so over directed on the page. And so find a happy medium between the two. You know, it's not saying you can't like take the time to try to specify the shot and like pose as the filmmaker when you're writing, but there's a line, and taking 8 pages to describe a 2-minute scene is just too much.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that if the Wachowskis had written the script as it would visually appear, it probably would be like a 250-page script.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
great question, Bob.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Did you guys have anything else you wanted to talk about with this?
You good?
The only thing I could think that was left in my mind was I find it interesting that this is kind of a team movie, and the team is throwaway, but I don't feel like it's cheap. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of like they don't have like a fire scene or anything.
Yeah.
You know, the team doesn't. I don't care that much that they die.
Yeah.
But I don't feel less about the movie because of it.
Well, there's even a scene that they take time to introduce them all, like in handshakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, this is this one, and this is that one.
Yeah, they
and
do.
That kind of tells you like mentally, oh, these people it's a crew thing.
That almost
It's
feels like a
team.
Michael Bay movie there.
Yeah,
in that
yeah. And then
moment.
and then they when they're killed, I mean it's sad when they
Yeah,
die,
you care.
but it's like
They had a couple moments.
Yeah, like APOC and them die. But Tank's the only one
Yeah.
outside of the main 3 that I care really about. And I don't think this movie's ever looked at as a team movie.
Yeah,
No.
but it really
It really is,
Yeah,
and
is.
it just kind of throws that away, but it's kind of insignificant.
I think
So,
once
yeah.
again, it's a testament to how great of a job they did with exploring Neo's inner needs and that whole side.
The
of
focus
story.
is so like vehemently on that,
And so-
like, yeah.
and we digest it as such that we're not
Right.
thinking about the team. And
You can almost get a feel like they were thinking about world building and ancillary material or something like.
Yeah.
Oh well, after we make this one, we can go back and show the earlier adventures of the Nebuchadnezzar and
right,
all that.
APOC.
Dude,
yeah.
the Matrix TV show is the
Yeah.
Nebuchadnezzar year 1.
And what's I mean, this is a different discussion, but isn't there talks of expanding the world?
I'm sure that the property's not completely dead, but
I thought not completely
Reboot.
dead. I thought that they're actively developing a new one, a Neo-less, Morpheus-less
like Star Wars without the
expansion of
Skywalkers
world.
type of thing.
Like
yeah.
more stuff in the Matrix
I mean, it's
that doesn't
the
involve
world-
that.
At
story.
Disney Park.
Yeah. Dude, plugging in.
I don't know. I don't know anything about that, Jimmy.
It would be like Wally. You just sit in the chair and you're in the Matrix.
Right.
Um,
Now, I mean, that would be hard. I guess this would take place concurrently with what's happening
I don't
because
know.
I think if you do it
was-
after Revolutions, it'd be kind of weird because of how
who
You
knows?
ignore the second 2 movies.
a lot of people do. We're not here to talk about those
Shit,
though.
man.
Yeah. I did the one piece of trivia I also found really interesting was Switch was originally I thought because this was something that was kind of not addressed. Something that I think on the whiteboard they wrote and the movie didn't do it, which was Switch was actually supposed to be a woman on the ship, and when she went into the Matrix, she was a man.
Oh,
Which
I would've-
Speaks a lot to the Wachowskis.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the duality of these people is a huge.
It's
thing in their
awesome,
movie.
right? And
Yeah.
I thought about that. I was like, also that would have been a great way to explain what the residual self-image is.
Oh man,
'Cause they do explain it, but-
if you had a person who's a woman in the real
Yeah,
world,
no,
and
and
then
they-
the man in the
This is
yeah.
how, and then
Ooh.
just got that line where like, this is how I see myself, and that would be really
The
cool.
world wasn't ready for that.
World probably wasn't ready for
The
that.
world is ready for it now, and that would be great.
That'd be super
I would
great.
love that.
Because I think that the RSI is a really interesting concept that this movie doesn't
Not
explore,
at all.
except that you get cool looking. Like that's it. Yeah, yeah.
I know the Wachowskis. They duck interviews. They're very secret.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
There's not a lot of interviews with them, but I think I've seen something where they said you can view based on their current reality. Those ideas were in their past movies,
Mhm.
and if you
Yeah,
go
yeah,
back
yeah.
and rewatch them, you'll see that those seeds planted in the
Yeah.
past.
Oh yeah,
movies.
yeah. I just think it's,
I haven't actually done that, but
no,
to
but I
figure
just
it
think
Oh man, that would
have
so
been that would have
great.
been a cool as a visual way to show.
Yeah, then nothing would have been able. You wouldn't need to explain.
You
it.
wouldn't need to
Get it.
explain it.
out. There was a part of me, like I remember when I first watched it, and this kind of speaks to that, was I'd almost was expecting that they weren't going to look the same in the Matrix
Like
at all.
like Jumanji type of like the avatars.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
something.
I think it would have
the
been too
avatars and stuff.
confusing, but I
would've.
would have loved that. Like that. Yeah, that
you
feels
can almost see it.
natural.
It feels natural,
I
right?
think
Yeah.
didn't when Jumanji the new one came out, didn't people say it had like this Matrix bent? To
Yeah,
because
definitely.
they go in there and they look like these like super characters. But yeah, that was the one thing I read where I was like, maybe that's the one thing that they could have done that would have made the movie slightly.
It might
more,
have been on the
yeah.
whiteboard. You're right, and then it didn't.
But you're
pass
right.
The world wasn't ready for that.
I can see the studio being like, "Don't do
No.
that."
I mean, it
Sadly.
might have even been brought up.
Do it now,
Neo's a man in the Matrix and a woman in the real world.
or anything. It doesn't
That'd
matter.
have been awesome.
Do it now.
Yeah.
Like if they do another property, do that.
Yeah.
Explore that because
Yes,
that is like,
that's cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's like ripe.
Yes.
Do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you guys got anything else? Matrix, The Matrix.
Love this
nothing.
movie.
It's a great
Great
movie.
teaching tool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's in Save the Cat 2, you said?
It's in Save the Cat Goes to the Movies, which is his book that breaks down movies
I'm
by
sure Christopher Vogler talks about it in the
probably.
Hero's
It's
Journey.
very much a
Yeah.
hero's
Yeah.
journey movie. It's a
Yeah.
good one to analyze.
Yeah.
Hero's journey.
Well, it's the Christ story,
Yeah.
pretty much. My favorite, the line at the beginning, dude, you're my own personal Jesus.
Yeah.
Lord and Savior. Perfect. All right, Matrix.
All right.
Great.
Thanks for
guys.
listening, guys.
Yeah,
See you later.
see ya. You have just listened to Writers Blockbusters, a screenwriting podcast featuring two professionals and another guy. Available only on Thundergrunt.